morning, Earthlings. How you doing today? Welcome back to First Contact Radio. We got a lot of news for today. We got a big event going on this weekend. A lot of activities going on this weekend. Lots of news. Let's get right to it. All right, starting off with our cosmic weather. We're going to look at spaceweather.com first. Solar wind, 398.9 kilometers per second. Planetary K-index at a 2, possibly up to a 3 in the next 24 hours. It was a 3 yesterday, last evening. No corona holes on the Earth side of the Sun. Nothing really of a significant nature. Maybe a few little spots here look like they're unfolding, but basically nothing of major significance. Chance for an M-class flare is 20% chance. Gets less within the next 48 hours. And then mid-latitudes, you got about a 35% chance that you're going to have some sort of geomagnetic storm activity, and a little bit higher if you're in the high latitudes. Alright, then of course we've got the incoming CME that hit yesterday, coronal mass ejection. Flew off the Sun's western limb on May 17th. Might hit Earth after all. Forecasters say a shockwave from the blast could deliver a glancing blow to Earth's magnetic field on May 18th or 19th. The CMA picture below was propelled by an M5 class solar flare from departing sunspot AR 1476. Astrologically, we are in the last couple days of the sun sign of Taurus, an earth sign. So wrapping things up, Taurus is earth, practical nature. Hierophant is the card that represented in the tarot. Taurus is, though it's about earth and dealing with earthly issues, the idea of Taurus, especially when related to the tarot card that represents it, is about listening to the inner teacher. Because the physical world is just the physical world. It's not the be-all, end-all of everything. And therefore, if we get caught up in only the physical world, we miss what's really going on. But to be connected and listen to that inner voice helps us to be able to understand that the physical and the spiritual connect together. Now, from the sun sign, or the moon sign, the unconscious mind, we're in between signs, the void of course phase. And we're in between Aries and Taurus. So we're in between the two. Tomorrow, the moon's going to be in Taurus. Last day of the sun sign, and then the next day after that, we're going to move into Gemini. Alright. So things are lining up out there. The current moon phase is 5% full. It's going to be a new moon this weekend, in time for all of the activities, or shall I say right in synchronicity with all the ideas and energies going on. Alright, on our Mayan oracle, we're at the third position, or the third tone. The kin for today is the dog, so that makes today an electric dog guided by the wizard. Supporting cast members are the sun as the challenge. The like-minded energy is the moon. And the monkey is the hidden power. Alright, the phrase I activate in order to love, bonding, loyalty. I seal the process of heart with the electric tone of service. I am guided by the power of timelessness. And on the Gregorian calendar, it is Friday, May 18th, 2012. Alright. Moving right along. Alright, first story up is dealing with the crop circles going on this weekend, or not only the crop circles, but the eclipse. And this is Jaime Maussan. You've heard, we've played plenty of clips down here before. This is an English version. And this is an opportunity to hear once again, before all of the festivities of this weekend take place, what this alignment is all about. Here we go.
Each year the crop circle phenomenon attracts researchers from all around the world. This year was no exception. Jaime Muson, one of the world's leading experts in UFOs, came over specifically from Mexico to witness the actual Whale and Smiley formation, and to video it and possibly decode the Mayan imagery within it.
For example, Stuart, you can see here two dots, and they are in direct correlation with these dashes. We have to know how many dots are under every set of dashes, because this is a date. Right here, we have a date, and we have to know what it means, because for the Mayan was very precise. 1, 2 dots, and then 3 lines. But they are not on the same line. They are in different lines, and that's a precise, very precise date. I am amazed. I am really amazed. Incredible. It's incredible. What we have found in Mexico around the Whale and Smiley formation is that we have the number 0 as the Mayans represented with an arc in the center. We have also 4 different lines that represents the number 4. And the number 4 for the Mayan was the directions, the north, the south, the west, and the east. And this is also very astronomical. Without a doubt, this is astronomical formation with astronomical information. But these are dates.
These are
precise dates.
Specific dates.
Precise dates.
Yes, yes.
You know, the 20th of May.
Yes.
And the eclipse. You remember the eclipse of July 11, 1991? I am pretty sure May the 20th, 2012 is going to be a very special day. Wow. Probably sightings around the world. Yes. That day is something very surprising. And just 16 days before the transit of Venus in front of the sun, yes. Probably in those 2 weeks, yes. Something is going to happen. From the May the 20th to June the 6th, 2012. We have to be very careful and look very carefully to that period of time. Just to the edge, we found Quetzalcoatl, for the Mayan, Kukulkan, the flying serpent, the divine god. As you see, the dashes here are not similar. I mean, they have different lengths.
Yes, yes.
For example, here we have to measure this probably 3 dots together, and then we have a dash, a small dash, then a big dash, then we don't have anything, then we have another dash, nothing, and a smaller dash. Yes. That's a date. That's a date. Very soon we will know. Very soon we will know, but they are telling us something. Something is going to happen in this date. This is a very sacred date. When you look at the figure, you have a replication from the right to the left. For some people, remember that the Mayans always look to the sky and the ground, a replication. What is up there is down here.
While we were filming our shots and researching this circle, we were astounded to hear of a new event that had occurred overnight in the neighbouring field, near the incredible Arlington White Horse. The second formation also appeared to have Mayan connections as well. The coincidence and timing seemed quite extraordinary to Jaime and our video team. Jaime Muson was particularly interested in the changing motif in each of the outer squares. He felt this was some kind of coded message, hidden information that could be of great importance to us all. The motifs, on further discussion, resemble the aspect of the sixth sun, the time when humanity will have direct communication with the Jaguar Knights.
It looks like 2012 is going to be the end of times. For the Mayan, at least it is. And in this figure, we find Quetzalcoatl or Kukulkan. The legend says that close to the end of times, Quetzalcoatl, Kukulkan, would come back to claim his kingdom again.
So summing up, these two events turned out to be very interesting for all of us, not only because of their astonishing and intricate designs, but also for the fact that they appeared so close to these ancient sites. I believe this has to be a key factor in the placement of these amazing formations that carry within them mysterious and significant messages with meanings that we try to decode. This is the attraction that pulls us towards this phenomenon each season.
This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
All right, Dirk, thank you very much. All right, I have 5 stories for today. Let's get to them. First one here, UFO hovering over Moscow, Russia on May 17th, just the other day. All right, let's check this out here. Alright, let's see here. We're looking above the tower where it says of the TV tower. Let me fast forward a little bit. Not seeing anything at the moment. There we go. Right there, up above. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. How I wonder what you are. Alright, moving right along. Next one here comes to us from UFO recorded over airport in Arlington, Virginia on May 16th. For several minutes I was trying to see if it was a plane or helicopter. I was totally cool calling it a plane or something until I saw the giant ion plasma cannon when zoomed in. Alright, let's check this out. There's the object in question. And he's going to zoom in. This is where he says he sees the plasma cannon, huh? Well, let's see if we can see that zoomed in shot. Alright, not quite certain there. Alright, well there you go. That's that sighting there. Next one from UFOsightingsdaily.com. UFO sighting in France of white orb over mountains. UFO in question. That's what we're looking for here. This is a very close-up capture of a cloud orb. These orbs often appear white, but usually reflect the colors of things behind them, making them appear invisible most of the time. These are not balloons or bags. What they are, science as still yet to decide, but my belief is that they are probes or drones from an alien ship. The ship might be seen or detected since it's larger, but the drones are small and harder to see, so they use drones to watch us, record us, and learn about society as at the beginning of the technological age. Alright, let's take a look at this. Alright. There it is, right above the mountain there. You just saw it zipping past. Going to come out this side here probably. There it goes. Oh, it just already zipped up. It's not going to see there because it went by already. Watch. Some's here. And they're looking for it here, but it's going to go up here. There it is. Boom. Just went by. Alright. They already missed it. Alright. Let's see if there's anything more here that we can see from up here. Alright, I think they missed it because it already went by. Alright, next one here, many UFOs recorded with telescope orbiting Earth's moon. Okay, there's images right there. There's a couple of them across the moon. These UFOs orbiting the moon have been recorded not by one person but by hundreds, and Google search can attest to that. These UFOs are there, and I only wish we had someone who could get us a better view of them. It only takes a few seconds to see them at night if you have a powerful enough telescope. These UFOs will only appear on the horizon because they are camouflage, but the moon's surface and reflected light. So watch the edges of the moon on the far upper or lower right side for a few minutes. That's all it takes but you need one hell of a zoom to do it. All right. Let's take a. All right. Let's. Here. Okay. We're looking up in this area up here. And I'm not seeing anything yet. Are you? Okay, we missed the first one. Let's see if we see the second one here. There we go. Alright, that's definitely something up there by the moon, and probably not an airplane. There we go, 3 and 4. Boom, 2 more. Certainly not airplanes. And 1 more. And a 5th one. Okay, look at that. There's a whole bunch of them up there. Very good. The whole video is up there. It's a couple minutes in length. Check it out. Alright, and here's one more UFO report. Now, you've been hearing lots of reports about strange sounds coming from around the world. Well, this one here is a sound. It's a huge mothership, a UFO mothership. And this one, the sound has actually been traced to seem to be coming from there. So, if this is the case, then that might clue us in on where all of these sounds are coming from. Let's check it out.
Bueno, ahora sí, la evidencia que estábamos esperando. Una nave que es grabada en Hong Kong, que produce estos sonidos que hemos venido escuchando en todo el mundo. Finalmente la evidencia está aquí, que relaciona a los sonidos con la presencia de naves muy posiblemente extraterrestres. La información con Fernando Correa.
El 24 de enero de 2012, mientras una nave nodriza sobrevuela Hong Kong, se captaron estos sonidos extraños llamados las trompetas del apocalipsis. Es la primera ocasión que se documenta la presencia de un ovni que aparentemente está generando estos misteriosos sonidos. ¿Podría ser esta evidencia la respuesta a las trompetas del apocalipsis? Ahora observe con cuidado la nave nodriza. En cámara lenta, la imagen de la nodriza es impresionante. Una esfera desaparece. No existe explicación convencional para esta presencia. Observando nuevamente el video resulta una evidencia trascendental que relaciona el fenómeno ovni y los extraños sonidos que aparentemente están siendo generados por esta nave nodriza. Primeros antecedentes de las trompetas del apocalipsis se presentó el 11 de agosto del 2011 en la ciudad de Kiev, en Ucrania. También en Budapest, Hungría, el 11 de enero del 2012. Luego en Costa Rica, en la región de Acosta, el 12 de enero del 2012. Además, en Monterrey, México, el 11 de febrero del 2012.
¿Se escucha? ¿Quién sabe?
Al día siguiente, 12 de febrero, las trompetas del apocalipsis en la Ciudad de México. Sonidos que nadie ha logrado explicar por completo. Como la presencia de la nave nodriza en Hong Kong, que como una advertencia o una señal, sobrevuela una ciudad de más de 7 millones de habitantes mientras escuchan estos sonidos misteriosos. Una evidencia que abre la posibilidad de que los ovnis generen las trompetas del apocalipsis. Por lo que en futuras emisiones, esta investigación continuará.
All right, very fascinating. Well, we've been hearing these sounds, as he showed, all around the world, and this actually seems to actually link up the sound with something UFO related. So maybe that's what they all are. You know, maybe each and every time, even though they couldn't be seen, maybe they were coming from ships way, way up there as some sort of notice that here they are, pay attention. Could be a warning, but all right, very good. All right, that's our UFO news for today. Let's jump away to our song, Wake Up. I'll be right back. I got a lot more news. Stay tuned.
What if our government was responsible for some of the greatest crimes against this nation? Would you really want to know? These are big questions, but these questions deserve answers. It's time to demand the truth.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of them.
9/11 was an inside job. Kennedy was killed by the CIA. Jimmy Carter saw UFO. Answers to secrets you need to know. So wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. The evidence is overwhelming. Step past your fear, take a look. Illuminati lies keep growing, but they're illusion from your eyes. And wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. What would our founding fathers say if they were alive today? Must be turning in their graves. Redcoats are coming, Big Brother's watching. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. What if by land and two if by sea? And I on the opposite shore will be ready to ride and spread the alarm through every Middlesex village and farm. Whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it. When a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Patriots arise. It's time to demand the truth.
All right, continuing right along. All right, I know you may have seen this before. It's been a while, but I did have this up. This came out in 2004. This was in the Sunday Standard. If you go to archive.org, it's in the part of the way back machine. And it says here, Kenyan-born U.S. Senate hopeful Barack Obama appeared to take over the Illinois Senate seat after his main rival, Jack Ryan, dropped out of the race Friday night amid furor over lurid sex club allegations. So, one, it mentions right off the bat that he's from Kenya. At this point, he wasn't running for president, so it really didn't seem to matter that where he was from. But the other thing here, it's interesting that when Obama first took position here, it was because of a controversy over somebody else. Kind of weird, huh? I mean, this guy was accused of, he dropped out of the race and suddenly Obama is in. Kind of strange coincidence that starts off his career that way. But maybe there's no coincidence in this regard. Maybe he's always been a thug. Or maybe he's always been the guy that was primed for the position, and it didn't matter what was in his way, he was going to get there. Now, you may have heard about this one. Big news all over the place. This is at Breitbart. The vetting exclusive, Obama's literary agent in 1991. Booklet, born in Kenya, raised in Indonesia and Hawaii. Now, for a long time, you've been hearing people say this was actually the case. But it may not necessarily... Anyway, here we go. All right. Breitbart News has obtained a promotional booklet produced in 1991 by Barack Obama's then literary agency, Actol and Dyston, which touts Obama as born in Kenya and raised in Indonesia and Hawaii. The booklet, which was distributed to business colleagues in the publishing industry, includes a brief biography of Obama among the biographies of 89 other authors represented by Acton and Dyston. It also promotes Obama's anticipated first book, Journeys in Black and White, which Obama abandoned, later publishing Dreams from My Father instead. Obama's biography in the booklet is as follows. Okay, you see his picture here, all right? Now, this was in 1991, many years before he was going to be running for election. Okay, and it says, Barack Obama, the first African-American president of the Harvard Law Review, was born in Kenya and raised in Indonesia and Hawaii. This is what has been said about him for a long while, and people have been saying, oh no, this isn't right, and the birthers got it wrong. And then yesterday, there's a new report that quickly came out that the literary agent said, oh, it was a mistake. However, it took them 16 years to figure out this was a mistake. So for 16 years, this booklet was out there. For 16 years, they didn't bother to edit it because it didn't really matter. And then when he ran for presidency, he changed. And when he ran for presidency, instead of saying that he was born in Kenya, it was changed to born in Hawaii. So something's kind of weird there. This wasn't something that there was a typo. This man is not from America. This man was born in Kenya. Here's another piece of proof. How many pieces of proof do you need, folks? How many? Some of you might need a lot more, but those of you who are really paying attention should know by now that the pieces add up. Something does not make sense in this regard. The man in office is not an American citizen. The man in the office does not have the same ideals of you as an American. Therefore, him tearing the country apart the way he's doing makes absolute sense. And for everyone to keep denying it, that's another day that he stays in office wrecking the country. So it's time to stop denying and time to pay attention. It's the only way things are going to change. Otherwise, you're just going to keep getting fooled out there, people. You're just going to keep getting fooled the way you've been fooled in the past. And I know some of you think you haven't been fooled. Guess what? You've been fooled. If you think Obama is from America, you've been fooled because the information is out there over and over. Just like bin Laden. If you think bin Laden was killed by Obama's people, no. Osama was reported dead 10 times, 9 times prior to the time this last year when Obama's supposedly SEAL team went in and got him. It was an Obama SEAL team, the SEAL team that Obama took credit for. Let me just rephrase that because I don't want to get that mixed up, because Obama didn't have anything to do with this except being the shuck and jive fellow that he is that took credit for something that he didn't do. But we know this to be true because he takes credit for a lot of things he doesn't do. All right, next one here. This is continuing up on this piece. This is Alex Jones talking about the exact issue. Here we go.
News we've ever covered. This just confirms everything. I am so blown away right now. About an hour ago at the office, I filed this report and linked to the Breitbart breaking news. Bombshell, Obama born in Kenya. And who says that? Obama's publicist. That's right, his literary agent. So that's your publicist for books. They used this from the early 90s until 2007. That's the one point I didn't add in my video. I pointed out that it was Hillary that first brought out that he was born in Kenya because the Clintons have all the files on everybody, that his wife, Michelle, had said in 2 different speeches they would go back to his homeland where he was born in Kenya. I show that in here. But then I was going back over to Breitbart and I noticed just as a footnote this, a whole nother article, Obama's literary agent used born in Kenya bio until 07. He had books published then, bestsellers. Obama was writing books. I mean, this went out. He knew this. His wife says it. They keep his college records and high school sealed. We know they said, oh, he's not Barry Soetoro. That's made up. Now they go, oh, yeah, he was Barry Soetoro. And he calls in now and makes jokes about it to radio shows. And you can go link through to the archive.org link, and it's all there. That he was a New York Times bestseller and all this, and he was born in Kenya. I mean, my God, this is insane. And look, folks, you can't have somebody foreign born because in the old days they would send people into other European countries, say from France into Germany or vice versa, to get people in and then get them in and then get them elected or to infiltrate government and things like that. But with this issue is they can blackmail him with this info, and they're clearly doing it. I guess this is the Clintons' third term or something. I'm almost speechless right now, ladies and gentlemen. This is unbelievable. But look at everything else we've seen from this president. This is just off the charts in our face, and the whole power structure knows this. They were using it until 07, from the early 90s until then. I mean, that's way over 10 years, more like 15 years, right at 15 years. There it is, Barack Obama, the first African president of the Harvard Law Review, was born in Kenya and raised in Indonesia and Hawaii. And it goes on. And there's all these different copies of it. They've sent out different versions over a decade plus. This is huge, huge news. They may stage a false flag or something to cover this up. This is massive.
All right. Definitely big news. But how many people are actually paying attention to this? Probably not as many as need to be. All right, moving right along. Let's talk about Ron Paul for just a bit here. Ron Paul, everybody heard about what happened with him, that he decided to change his game plan. And then the mainstream media, well, the mainstream media came out and using its due diligence, they took his press release, they looked at the words in it. They didn't bother to look up in the dictionary the meaning of the words, therefore they reported or misreported to you that he had dropped out of the race. When other folks, people on the internet and people around the world, actually read the press release and bothered to understand it for what it really was, they realized he wasn't dropping out of the race. And then when speaking to the Ron Paul committee and the people involved, found out no, he hadn't dropped out of the race. It was only the mainstream media, because they were afraid of Ron Paul, they made up the stories. Okay? But the mainstream media does that. And if you know anyone that's out there that is still trusting the mainstream media, there is the problem. You got to stop trusting them because they're lying to you. Okay. This comes to us from the Daily Paul. Obsequious plan by the campaign makes sense now. Ladies and gentlemen, a seemingly meek play only works if you are really strong. We are so strong that the campaign gave polite deference to the Republican National Convention when they asked if they could proceed as if Romney would be the nominee. Now, after the recent campaign statement, we are seeing the real beauty of this maneuver. The media will now do our job for us. They will announce the end of this race. They will entirely squelch the very little motivation there was for Mitt Romney. It is time to go to work. It is time for us to elect Ron Paul as President of the United States. All right, very important. Here, I got an image here. People say, Obama 2012. This year, choose the only option we've given you. All right, that's what we've got. This isn't an election where you've got a different person on the Republican and Democratic side. You got the same person, and then you've got Ron Paul, which is different than both of them. Now, in this country, I know that you think that there's a difference between Republican and Democrat, but there isn't. Do you notice how the news rallies around both of them these days? Do you notice how they protect the parties, both of them? Because they're all working for the same team. Okay? There's no Democrat and Republican. There's two different sides that play against you, so you think that you actually have a choice. But you don't have a choice. They don't want to give you a choice, so they put these individuals up there, and they're unscrupulous individuals. They don't have integrity. And these are the politicians that they want to parade before you. We got to stop, folks. We got to make a change, because without making a change and stepping up, the powers that be are going to keep doing these things. Now, just because they're doing them doesn't mean they're going to win. It just means they're going to keep trying. And as long as people keep remaining misinformed, or shall I say ignorant of the real information, the problems will continue to go on. All right, this next piece, also about Ron Paul, comes to us from RT. Here we go.
Well, he's announced he's going to stop campaigning, but Ron Paul isn't out of the race just yet. The presidential candidate says he simply doesn't have the cash to splurge on campaigning, but he has a new strategy: fighting for and winning delegates. After all, his supporters say that's what really counts. So just because many people have called this race over, Ron Paul and his supporters say they're here to stay. So can the Ron Paul delegate strategy work? Joining us now is Mary Willison, volunteer organizer and Ron Paul supporter. Hi there, Mary. Nice to see you. So while Romney has the cash to continue campaigning, Ron Paul has a more behind-the-scenes strategy. How does he plan to implement this delegate strategy, and can the strategy work?
Well, the process began a long time ago in the caucus states, and even the primary states have a delegate selection process. And Ron Paul supporters showed up and became those delegates who go on to, from the district conventions to their county conventions, onto their state conventions, and get elected as national delegates. Ron Paul's priority is focusing on those states where there is a delegate selection process, where, it's actually not necessarily Ron Paul's strategy as much as it is the people who are going and becoming those delegates. So I don't fault him for not spending a lot of money in the primary states on advertising, especially negative ads. Ron Paul's that's just not his way. So, but he already did a lot of campaigning through many of the primary states, like California. We had 6 rallies here, town hall rallies attended by more than 25,000 people. There were 3 different fundraisers. I attended a couple of them. And it's up to the grassroots now, I think, to support Ron Paul and get him elected. So the announcements that I heard this week, for me, it doesn't mean that he has stopped his campaign whatsoever. It just means that we have to push on, continuing to get ourselves elected as delegates. Ron Paul never had the power to anoint anyone as a delegate, and the way I have interpreted his recent announcements, and because I'm at the grassroots level, I don't have direct coordination with the campaign, my interpretation is it's up to us, carpe diem. It's the delegates who need to get themselves elected, who need to get to that convention. If we want to make a mark in the platform, if we want to get our president elected, we have to show up and make it happen.
All right, and I have a feeling Ron Paul's supporters are going to show up because they have stuck by him throughout all of this. And I've talked to many of his supporters that say it's not necessarily about winning, it's about his message. What do you think about that?
I'm still in it to win it. I know that it is about a movement. It's not only about Ron Paul winning. We have to get ourselves elected at all the local levels in order to really create a change. Ron Paul can't do this on his own. It's up to us to become part of the party and take action at local levels in order to make any progress, the progress that we need. We need sound money. We need to end these wars. There's so much to it in his message, and he's not just a leader to many of us, he's also a fatherly figure, and there's a lesson in everything, and I think it's sink or swim, and it's tough love, and we have to do something if we want it to be done. You can't wait around and expect it to be done for you.
All right, Mary. So after the Republican National Convention in August, there'll be just a couple months before the election, and if Mitt Romney does become the nominee, what will Ron Paul supporters, as yourself, what would you do? Would you ever back Romney, or would they stay home on voting day instead, or where would you take that energy?
Myself, personally, I would write Ron Paul in. But I don't know where the movement will go in August if he is not the Republican nominee. I know a lot of people would like to push him to go third party. I don't think that that's in his agenda whatsoever. But it really has to, it's going to be based on our actions, I think. And if we want our president elected, we have to do everything in our power to make it happen and show a strong showing. We have to be the delegates on that floor. I don't know about what's going to happen if Romney gets the nomination. I think it would be very, very detrimental to the party. I don't think that we could win as Republicans with Romney as the nominee. I think that he doesn't pose any change from what we currently have. And we can't just sit around and hope for change anymore. We have to take action now because we are on the verge of becoming Europe or something else where there's catastrophe, and most Americans unfortunately don't know about it.
All right, Mary, thank you for coming on the show. Pleasure as always. Fighting the fight for Ron Paul. Very quickly,
I can tell you there's a money bomb going on right now, the Rise for Liberty money bomb for the Ron Paul campaign. People can donate at ronpaul2012.com.
All right.
Also, the LALibertyHQ.org is where people can support Ron Paul in Los Angeles, and look for their Liberty candidates at LALibertyVote.com.
All right, there you have it. That is how you support your candidate there. That was Mary Willison, volunteer organizer and Ron Paul supporter.
All right, very good. So there you go. We have to stand up there to support Ron Paul. You know, he's done so much. He's been consistent for all these years in Congress, 30 years. You know, the people need to stand up. And yes, he has gone to many of these primary states already. He has been through. So people need to step up. I won't support Romney. I will not support Romney. He doesn't have my vote because he doesn't represent me. Doesn't know anything about me. Doesn't represent any of my friends or the people that I know. He represents himself, his interests, and his greedy friends up there at Bain Capital that are involved with all of the corruption and scams that they are involved with. But shh, you're not supposed to know that because he's a presidential candidate, and you're supposed to sweep all of the bad things underneath the carpet and pretend you don't know them, so that way if he gets elected, you got something to complain about for 4 years. Even though that the information is out there now in advance, generally Americans are pretty slow on the uptake. And so we'll just see how this unfolds. But the man said he would sign the NDAA. And unless you know what that is, here's a story for you. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they want to support Romney, and told them I will not support Romney because he's just like Obama. They wanted to know how and where he was like Obama. So the example I gave was about the NDAA, that when asked during one of the debates if Romney would sign the NDAA, he said absolutely he would. And the person I was talking to, they didn't even flinch. What's the NDAA, they said. You see, they listen to Fox News, and that's all they listen to. And they don't have any other point of reference. And they said if Fox News didn't tell them about it, then obviously it's not important. Told them that the NDAA was one of the most unconstitutional bills that are out there, and Obama signed it, and Romney said if he was president, he would have signed it. Got to pay attention, folks. The NDAA is not good. You're going to see in a few minutes in a story that someone actually took it serious and did something about it. Moving right along, here's a story. We're going to switch over to Chicago and what's going on with the summit. Generals warning to U.S. troops at upcoming NATO summit. Behave. The head of the U.S. Northcom Command has a reminder for his troops supporting the upcoming NATO summit in Chicago. No alcohol or prostitutes. It comes as the U.S. Southern Command finalizes its probe into the conduct of 12 troops assigned to the security for a recent presidential trip to Colombia. Investigations continue into an alleged prostitution scandal involving military and Secret Service agents who were in South American nation in advance of a trip last month by President Barack Obama. All right, well, they did this in advance of the trip that Obama took out there. So whatever was going to go on would have probably happened in advance of Obama going to Chicago. So I don't think there's probably going to be any problems with them during the course of it. Now, this story came to you from CNN, but look what's up here. CNN, 1 year later after bin Laden's death. Look, folks, CNN, a CIA network, is pushing the idea that bin Laden was just killed a year ago. But he was pronounced dead 9 times, starting in 2001, shortly after the World Trade Center bombing. That's when the first time he was pronounced dead. Okay? So, CNN, you can't rely upon them because they're nonsense. Look at this. 1 year after his death, living with terror. You know, nonsense. Nonsense. Look what they're pushing. Okay, also, hundreds of outside cops helping Chicago for NATO summit. Additional officers coming from Milwaukee, Philadelphia, and Charlotte, Mecklenburg, North Carolina. Chicago police will get security help from the state of Illinois and cities across the country during this weekend's NATO summit. In addition to about 3,100 Chicago police officers assigned to the summit, hundreds from Milwaukee, Canada, Charlotte, Mecklenburg, North Carolina will help police protesters. Chicago Police Department spokeswoman Melissa Stratton told NBC Chicago. She couldn't confirm the exact number of officers traveling here, but the Chicago Sun-Times reports Milwaukee plans to send about 100. Philadelphia will send 68. Police officers that are going out there, behave yourselves. Okay, you're the ones who should be told to behave yourselves because you are the ones and your organizations are the ones who have been corrupt and violating the Constitution. So shape up or ship out, police. We don't care about your lack of integrity. We do care about your lack of integrity. We'd like you to see you operate with a little bit more concern for the people, since those are the ones who you're actually supposed to protect instead of the criminals. So, police officers in Chicago, pay attention to what you're doing because you're about to serve the criminals. And is that what you were about? Is that what you swore an oath when you went into the police officer, that you were going to protect the criminals? How proud your families must be that you're out there protecting the bad guys. Well, don't protect the bad guys this time. Don't beat on the protesters. Get with the program. All right, continuing along. Here we've got NATO and Chicago protesters arrested at Obama campaign headquarters. Police ramp up the presence. Now, this happened earlier in the week. Though the NATO summit won't officially begin till later this week, police have already ramped up their presence in downtown Chicago, and on Monday morning they made a number of arrests at President Obama's campaign headquarters. After a group of demonstrators rushed into Prudential Plaza, the building where Barack Obama's re-election campaign is based, 8 protesters were led away in handcuffs when they refused to leave the building's lobby. Chicago Tribune reports police said the arrested demonstrators would likely be charged with criminal trespassing. This group was organized by the Catholic Workers Movement and, according to Fox Chicago, was attempting to open up a dialogue around ending the U.S. occupation in Afghanistan. The action is part of what activists are calling a week without capitalism. So, as you can see, because these concerned individuals were there, wanted to open up a dialogue about stopping the war, you could see why it was necessary that the Chicago police arrested them. Because you can't have people wanting to have peace, not in the town where Al Capone is from, right? No, you got to have the Chicago police officer thugs arrest the people that want peace, because even though that we'd like to hope that they're not going to protect the criminals, this story confirms the fact that there are idiot police officers out there who don't know what they're doing and are protecting the criminals. Ay vey, what are we going to do about this? Okay, now, next story. Also regarding Chicago. Coming to Chicago for the NATO summit, your laptop and cell might be attacked. Alright, I know the city is already gearing up for it because I've been caught in a flurry of gridlock, street jams, and security. This is an interesting thought, so I wonder how much of it is just what might come through when the summit comes. Alright, so I'm going to leave this story for you to read so I can keep moving along. There's also a rumor out there that cell phone service might be shut down. Of course, this is unconfirmed at this point in time. Simply something that came across the Twitter feed. Now, I have a theory I want to put out here. You know what? I'm going to bring this theory back a little bit later. Let's continue on. All right, this is the Department of Justice. They affirmed the right to record police. Listen to this, very important.
The sky will open. The light will come down. Celestial choirs will be singing.
Well, today we have a glimmer of hope in the fight to allow the public to film law enforcement. There are currently 3 states, Illinois, Massachusetts, and Maryland, who still rely on archaic wiretapping laws to make filming police illegal. Now, today we're going to focus on Maryland, where the DOJ is weighing in on a civil suit that stems back to 2010. Maryland resident Christopher Sharp was at the Preakness Stakes when he saw a girl being punched by police for mouthing off. Check out how another camera caught Sharp getting in trouble for recording this incident of police brutality.
How many times you got to punch her? She's bleeding.
Needless to say, when Baltimore police realized Sharp was recording, they took his phone, deleted all of his videos, and according to Sharp, removed him from the racetrack. Now, with the help of the ACLU, Sharp has filed a civil suit against the Baltimore Police Department, and the DOJ has weighed in on the case. The department's Civil Rights Division sent a statement directly to the judge presiding over the suit back in January, saying that the cops have violated the public's constitutional rights, which was seen as good news at the time. The letter even provoked police to issue a general order to its officers, saying that people do have the right to film them while in action. But that general order was taken with a grain of salt, and Baltimore cops quickly began finding other excuses to hide the cameras from sight. Take, for example, this incident that happened shortly after the general order was issued.
No. Really?
You're standing in front of the border. I'm asking you to leave.
Okay.
To walk down the street.
Okay. And you guys do know you have a standing order to allow people to record it.
2, 3 of them, and you're going to go to jail.
I'm leaving. I haven't. What? I'm leaving.
Turn around and walk.
Well, realizing their initial statement didn't change a thing, the DOJ sent another letter, this time directly to Baltimore police, to try to finally end what's been dubbed a war on photography. I've got it right here. It's actually 11 pages. The DOJ condemns the Charm City cops for allowing the harassment to continue. I'm going to give you a few snippets from this long letter. It says members of the press and members of the general public enjoy the same rights in any area accessible to the general public. No individual is required to display press credentials in order to exercise his right to observe, photograph, or record police activity taking place in an area accessible to the public. And lastly, because recording police officers in the public discharge of their duties is protected by the First Amendment, policy should prohibit interference with recording of police activities, except in narrowly circumscribed situations. More particularly, policy should instruct officers that except under limited circumstances, officers must not search or seize a camera or recording device without a warrant. Officers should be advised not to threaten, intimidate, or otherwise discourage an individual from recording police officer enforcement activities or intentionally block or obstruct cameras or recording devices. Well, finally, it's refreshing to see the Department of Justice side with the people because you know what? They're right. It is a violation of your First and Fourth Amendment rights when the cops ban you from filming them. Now, this statement won't necessarily mean that the police department policies are going to change, but it's going to be tough to continue what they're doing when the federal government is watching closely. So for the DOJ standing up to the police to reaffirm that the public does have the right to record police, this is a true glimmer of hope.
All right, so that is a glimmer of hope, so that's good. Hopefully the police will pay attention. Maybe they won't, but it's worth a shot anyway. You know, wouldn't it be something if every time a corrupt police officer did something, if they violated a person's right, wouldn't it be something if they just dropped dead? Maybe if a couple of them just drop dead when they violate the rights of others, maybe other police officers might learn from their example. Perhaps, police officers, you should take your job that serious, and you should put that kind of pressure on you, because you took an oath. And if you violate your oath, then you should think of yourself as the biggest piece of scum on the earth if you violate your oath. And you should use that as a stick and a carrot to keep yourself on track. Because if that's what you need, then perhaps that's what you need. Because you need to stop being corrupt, police. People want to believe in you. But when you are violating their rights, it's hard to believe in you and what you're about. The only thing that people can do is turn against your ideas because you're not acting with integrity. Act with integrity, police officers. That's what you're supposed to do. All right, here is a reality check report.
Well, a U.S. federal judge has ruled that the U.S. government cannot indefinitely hold citizens without charges, despite the bill that was signed into law earlier this year. So why did the judge strike down that part of the National Defense Authorization Act? Ben has the reality check you won't see anywhere else.
We have closely followed the NDAA here on Reality Check. As a reminder, the National Defense Authorization Act isn't all bad. It allows for funding for the military construction, and for defense activities of the Department of Energy. The part of the bill, though, that poses enormous constitutional problems is one provision which states that the president is afforded the absolute power to arrest and detain citizens of the United States without their being informed of any criminal charges, without a trial on the merits of those charges, and without any due process safeguards protected by the Constitution of the United States. A group of writers and activists sued over this provision. They sued President Barack Obama, Defense Secretary Leon Panetta, and the Defense Department. They claim that that provision could allow them to be arrested and held indefinitely in military detention. Well, yesterday, a New York U.S. District Judge, Catherine Forrest, ruled in their favor and struck down the indefinite detention clause. Again, to remind you of what that clause stated, the president would have the power to order the indefinite detention of any associated forces that are engaged in hostilities against the United States or its coalition partners, against any person who has committed a belligerent act, or any person who has directly supported such hostilities in aid of enemy forces. And it also states that the president has the power to place these individuals into detention under the law of war without trial until the end of the hostilities. It was last October when we explained why this violates the U.S. Constitution. Yesterday's ruling by Judge Forrest states that as well. The statute at issue places the public at undue risk of having their speech chilled for the purported protection from Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, and associated forces, i.e. foreign terrorist organizations. The vagueness of Section 1021 does not allow the average citizen, or even the government itself, to understand with the type of definiteness to which our citizens are entitled, or what conduct comes within its scope. So here's what you need to know. That order prevents enforcement of the indefinite detention provision pending further orders from the court or an amendment to the statute by Congress. And speaking of Congress, today members of the House are debating the 2013 version of the NDAA. Some members of Congress want to include the indefinite detention clause once again, but there is a bipartisan group fighting it. Armed Services Committee Ranking Member Adam Smith, a Democrat, and Justin Amash, a Republican, they are pushing for an amendment that would ban those permanent detentions. We'll keep following it for you, and that is Reality Check.
If you'd like to make your voice heard on the story, head over to Ben's Facebook page. You can find it by searching him, Ben Swan.
All right. right, so very good. So there's one judge that wised up about it. Hopefully the rest of the country and will wise up, and hopefully there won't be more individuals that are saying they don't know what the National Defense Authorization Act is. I mean, come on. How apathetic can you be that you don't pay attention to the very laws and rules that are going out there to hurt you? I mean, you really have to have your head in the sand and not be paying attention. Hey, vey. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, people. Okay, we're going to turn our attention to what's going on this weekend. A rare solar eclipse alignment will happen between the Earth, the Sun, and our central sun, Alcyone, in the Pleiades constellation. On May 20th, 2012, a rare solar eclipse alignment will happen between the Earth, the Sun, and our central sun, Alcyone, in the Pleiades constellation. It will take Earth 26,000 years to travel around Alcyone. The Pyramid of the Sun outside Mexico at Teotihuacan is said to be aligned with the Pleiades, for its west face and many other surrounding streets were aligned directly with the setting point of the Pleiades on midnight of the night when it is at its highest point. The Pleiades was clearly revered by the Mayans, who, in the area of Chichen Itza, knew that the sun cast a snake-like shadow on the side of the north stairway of the Kukulkan Pyramid during the spring equinox. Some scholars have calculated that about 60 days after the shadow's appearance, when the sun reaches its zenith over the pyramid at midday, between May 20th and May 23rd, there is another direct alignment with the Pleiades. The Pleiades-Sun alignment may have a direct connection with Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent that came to bring great wisdom to the planet. The ancient Egyptians also singled out the Pleiades as a female goddess, probably most often recognized with Neith, the divine mother, or Hathor, who took on the form of the crow who carried the seeds of life. Pyramidologists working in Egypt in the last 12 years have found pyramidal texts that suggest the Egyptians revered the Pleiades as a higher divine star system, especially Alcyone, its brightest star. Alright, and then we got more information about the eclipse, where it's going to take place, who's going to see it. I've been playing these all week long. Alright, very, very interesting indeed. Now, you've heard the talk about the return of Quetzalcoatl. And in the Denver airport, there's all kind of strange markings in there, strange paintings. We've referred to those many a times. Check this one out. See this? Quetzal. Let's get a more close-up version here, or maybe not. Quetzal. Okay? See the Quetzal bird right there. Here's the Quetzal bird, and this is on one of the pictures here. This is in the Denver airport. Why is there a bird here called Quetzal? And you notice the fires and everything going on when Quetzal is here making an appearance. Looks like, yeah, people have died here. Got a big jaguar here that looks like it's dead. A lot going on in this imagery, friends. Is this just a coincidence that this is like that? I don't know. But I don't necessarily think that coincidences are just coincidences of and by themselves. I think they are there because they make sense about something. There's a reason this is here. There's a reason why this imagery is here. Don't know why, but we'll find out. And then here is a image. This is of the transit of Venus. So you can actually kind of see what's going to be going on with it, where it's going to be moving, alright, and how it's going to move across the sun. Alright, it's a nice little graph right there, so you can check that out. Alright, I want to show you this image. You know what, I don't think I want to show you this image here. Let's go back. Alright, this is Chicago. This is where all of the people that are going to be at the summit are going to be. Look how they've blocked off all of this area of Chicago. Look what's blocked off here. Alright, whole big square. Now, told you I had a theory, and I'm going to present this. See what you think. Alright, we've got the world leaders gathering together in Chicago. They're in an area where they've blocked themselves off. We also have an eclipse taking place that is referred to in numerous crop circles and also reference to the return of Quetzalcoatl. So, is there a UFO event that's about to take place, and are all of these world leaders gathered in one place behind all the security that they're behind so that they can be protected from whatever they believe is coming down? Or are they all gathered in one place because, you know, it's the easiest way to protect, I guess, just to protect themselves? That's just a thought. You know, you hear the stories in the Bible. Jesus will be coming down from the clouds, you know, returning in the clouds. Okay, let's say Jesus is one of the UFOs. Let's see him and the armies are coming down. Well, if that's the case, and the Antichrist is down here on Earth, the Antichrist would be the one that would be protecting itself, shooting at the aliens, making people think the aliens are bad. And that's what the government seems to do and wants to push. I just think it's very interesting that during this time of this alignment, that all of the world leaders are gathered together in one location, discussing events. And not only is this event taking place in Chicago, but then you also have the Camp David deal, which is going on with the G8, and then at the end of the month we have the Bilderberg, which is going on in Chantilly, Virginia. So I don't think it's out of the question that they're all gathered together at this time for some sort of protection from what's going on, because maybe they believe that there is going to be some intervention of some sorts, and it's the best way to protect themselves, because they certainly have themselves, as you can see from this image here, all protected in here. All the talk about the evacuations and everything, we'll see how that pans itself out over the next couple days. Hopefully everything will be okay. So that's a way out there thought, but if you've been listening to the show long enough, you know that I think kind of out of the box, pretty far out there, so it's just a thought. All right, very last thing we're going to do for today is our meditation. So go ahead and close your eyes, relax. All right, what I'd like you to imagine, my friends, is I'd like you to imagine yourself standing in a field, looking up at the sky. And as you look at the sky, you observe the cycles that are taking place. You see the movement of the planets and the stars very clearly. And for a moment you are able to see back into the past of how this movement has taken place over thousands and thousands of years. And you recognize that the universe has its own plan outside of what humans, earthlings, and other inhabitants of other worlds have. The universe goes on of its own accord. And as you realize the universe has its plan, and that nature and life is moving along according to this plan, you realize it is more important to pay attention to what is going on with nature than to get caught up in all of the dramas of the earthly ways, of the earthly politics and the corruptions and crimes. You realize it's important to pay attention to spirit, to God, to the movements of the planets and stars, because you realize that there is true love in the universe, much different than what is being shown to the people from the governments. And therefore the true leadership of the world comes from paying attention to spirit, paying attention to the bigger picture. So just imagine yourself now looking up at the sky. Imagine seeing the eclipse. Imagine seeing the transit of Venus. Imagine feeling all of this spiritual energy coming down to you in the openings that come from it. Understand that the events taking place are not only physical events that we will see with our eyes, but the energy behind it is much more subtle than physical. And the changes people will be going through on the planet are changes that are at a deep cellular level. A change in consciousness. Let's make sure all of our chakras are activated from the bottom of the spine upward. Red at the bottom of the spine. Orange above that at the belly button. Yellow just below the rib cage. Green at the heart chakra. Blue at the throat. Violet at the third eye. And indigo at the crown chakra. And then the light continues on up into the cosmos. And you feel your connection to the above and to the below, to the earth and to the cosmos. You realize that you are a child of both. Let's think a good thought for everyone in the world. And let's send out a lot of positive energy for everyone, that we might be open to truly understand what this event this weekend is all about. That we may grow and we may learn from it. And as we hold that thought in our mind, let's bring our energy and attention back to the present moment on the count of 3. 3, coming back to the present moment filled with confidence. 2, coming back to the present moment filled with faith. And 1, coming back to the present moment happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, and whole. All right, there you have it. Made it through the week. All right, let's see what happens this weekend, my friends. Look, just be safe out there, okay? I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. I just know that there's a lot of signs pointing this particular time. We may have UFO sightings. We may have something more spectacular than just sightings. There may be landings. There may not be any of those things. There may be just a great shift of energy. There could be earthquakes. There could be earth changes that go on. Whatever the case may be, keep your wits about you. Keep your wits about you, because that's what's the most important thing. And as you keep your wits about you, you'll be able to take this energy that is out there and find a way to truly channel this energy in a creative, productive way. All right? We're all in this together. We're all going to get through this together. This is a great opportunity and a great moment that is before us. Let us really go into this moment to get the most out of it that we are truly able to get. Because I believe that what is going on is a divine activity that we're going to be very grateful for when all is said and done. All right, that's it. That's our show. That's our prayer. Be safe this weekend. If you take any pictures, if you have any stories about anything, let me know. firstcontactradio@yahoo.com. Be glad to hear. Or you can go to the Facebook page, sign on there, subscribe to our videos over at YouTube. Let me know what's going on, all right? That's it. I'll talk to you soon. Peace. Have a great, safe, healthy weekend. I'll talk to you next week. Peace.